Abigail Van Buren bylines in the early 2000s. The third Prudence, Emily Yoffe, ran the column from 2006 until shortly before my arrival in 2015. Editor Janae Desmond Harris took over after my departure in 2021. Dear Prudence existed long before my tenure and carries on quite comfortably after me. I have always found a pleasurable sort of reassurance from the inevitable obsolescence of the role, not least because it relieves some of the pressure of trying to offer useful advice to 40 strangers a week, 52 weeks a year. The marvelous Walter Slezak, you might remember him as Rock Hudson's wily major domo in Come September, or as the villainous Willie in Hitchcock's Lifeboat, or then again you might not remember him at all, wrote a charming autobiography in 1962 called What Time's the Next Swan? He named the book after a popular story from his father Leo Slezak's turn playing the title role in Wagner's Lohengrin. It was just before his first entrance. He was ready to step into the boat, which, drawn by a swan, was to take him on stage. Somehow the stagehand on the other side got his signals mixed, started pulling, and the swan left without Papa. He quietly turned around and said, "What time's the next swan?" It's the sort of anecdote that appends itself to certain character types once they've reached a ubiquitous level of fame. Groucho Marx, Dorothy Parker, Bob Hope, Oscar Wilde. Stories that are better described as plausible than literal. There is always another staging of Lohengrin to look forward to next season. There is always another Prudence waiting to take over. If you miss this one, just wait for another swan. You'll be fine. Advice columnist is not the sort of job one usually trains for, as there are few studios where one can get one's foot in the door by offering minuscule amounts of advice in the mailroom. No Schwab's where agents lunch at the counter and periodically discover savvy newcomers. Landing one of the few nationally syndicated columns is usually a question of luck, proximity, cronyism, and timing, ideally all four. I was no exception. Nothing in particular qualified me for the job outside of a general interest in advice column history dating back to high school, when I'd picked up a secondhand copy of Since You Ask Me and taped a rerun of the 1999 made-for-TV movie about Anne and Abby starring Wendy Malick, the Veronica to Christine Baranski's Betty in my psychosexual development. I was running an unprofitable literary humor website in 2015 when Emily Yoffe left a vacancy in the Prudence chair, and one of the editors at Slate happened to like my work and suggested I interview for the job. I did, and I got it. Out of an abundance of caution, I juggled both jobs for a few months until my fingers got sore from all the typing, at which point I quit the unprofitable website, much as a space shuttle sheds its booster rockets upon slipping the surly bonds of Earth before delivering a permanent multipurpose module on the International Space Station. One of the obvious downsides to taking on a job for which one cannot possibly have received any formal training, particularly at the tender age of 29, is the potential for chaos. So I was particularly grateful to inherit a partially prefabricated persona like Dear Prudence, rather than having to come up with a wholly original style from the outset. Whether one comes to Prudence through the Greeks, the Catholic Church, or the Beatles, one has an immediate and instinctive sense of her attributes. Prudence is patient, reserved, discerning, able to judge the right moment to a nicety, endowed with a sense of scale, self-disciplined, forward-thinking, ever on guard against extremes. Philosopher Joseph Piper, one of the 20th century's clearest students of scholasticism, called Prudence the mold and mother of all the other cardinal virtues. None but the prudent can be just, brave, and temperate, and the good is good insofar as it is prudent. My own sense of the prudent might differ from the Prudences before and after me, to say nothing of Piper, but the task, as I saw it, was to incorporate something of my individual values and worldview into the Prudence character, such that the version of myself that offered guidance to strangers every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with bonus questions available on occasional Fridays would seek neither to dispense dogmatic and universal codes of conduct nor attempt to remake the audience in my own.